New York Comic Con has a very special place in my heart.
Every year I look forward to Comic Con. The community is awesome. People are super friendly. It's like
you can just be yourself.
It's very exciting to see other people express something special. I mean, I feel like we kind of speak
It took a while before I realized that I wasn't alone in the world.
It's 100 worlds in one.
It's just home.
Good. How are you guys?
Great. So what's the power of this Wonder Woman story? What separates this Wonder Woman?
Or don't get his right. This being like my third table, I feel a little bad because I feel like a lot of times I'm sort of.
Are
you wrote by this?
Well, it's weird because, to be quite honest, again, like fans, right? When I first was told, oh, your next movie is going to be a Wonder Woman, I had all these expectations of what it was going to be, right? But then when I read the script, I was just like, oh, this is kind of not what I was expecting in a way, because it's not, the one sort of epic tale that it's going to be, right? Like the first one was, right? I think part of it is in talking to James about it. Because this is in his continuity, I kind of feel like what he wanted to do with this movie, and I'm speaking for him obviously, but my understanding of it is that, he felt like, of the Trinity, right, like Superman, Batman, everybody knows their supporting cast in their world, right? Superman has Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen, Perry White, the Kent family, his thing from growing up in Kansas and that kind of stuff, right? Batman is obviously Alfred, his death of his parents, the different Robins and the iterations of that. People understand his world and his Bruce Wayne life, but also his Batman life, the Clark Kent life, and the Superman life, right? But Wonder Woman kind of doesn't have that, right? Like, can you guys think of? She's just kind of Wonder Woman. Maybe she's just Steve Trevor, right? So I think James really wanted to sort of, especially this being in part of his universe, like a story that sort of introduced more of her, like who her cast of people, like the Ed Candies and stuff like that. Steve isn't there obviously, and these other people like whether it be villains or like there's the Silver Swan and they start off with it being part of her family element, and then it goes into sort of like how does she become a villain type of thing, right? But also things like Cheetah and Cale, right? And these other people that sort of like probably most fans don't really know about Wonder Woman and sort of the who are her villain cast outside of Cheetah. Everybody just Cheetah's. Most people think that's her only villain, a big villain like Giganta, and so I think James just wanted to sort of tell a story that sort of, used a lot of the people in her mythology, I suppose, and tell the story about that.
It's open world.
It is. I mean, because it's like a flashback story. Actually, it's a story that sort of happens between some of the earlier movies, basically. And so it's a movie that sort of starts, when she first arrived in, his universe, and then it sort of catches her up into sort of the Wonder Woman that she is right now. And that's really spoilery, so I apologize for that. You can write that out.
You mentioned about the shared universe, and the shared animated universe is maybe what 10, 12 movies deep.
Yeah.
What's the process behind deciding on what to do next? Why go with the Wonder Woman movie? How far along is it that you're thinking, well, planting the seeds in the Superman movies, we're going to focus on her next? Like, what's the process to choose where to go?
It's a weird thing because I think there's the business side of it, and then there's the creative side of it, right? And so I think the continuous universe thing was a product of kind of going like, hey, every time we have to make one of these, we have to create a whole new world and a whole different style, right? When Bruce was heading these up, like in the past, we would have to create, is it Bruce? A lot of times we default to Bruce Timm style because we kind of like, well, we don't have enough artists to sort of populate this world or do all the incidentals and recreate the look of how the backgrounds are and blah, blah, blah. So we would just default to sort of styles that we have libraries of. And so in this case, they were trying to do it more purposefully, where it's like, okay, we're going to build a library of something that we can just continually, tell these stories in the amount of time you're giving us and the budget that you're giving us, and so we can reuse a lot of assets. We can build a world and reuse it, and still just tell these stories. If we were obviously more like a real feature kind of thing, we would have much more time and probably 10 times the budget that we have. But because of what they want, what they're willing to pay, how do we sort of, business-wise, accomplish that? So part of it is, again, a business kind of thing, but we try to take kind of what they want, like things like Death of Superman or Judas Contract. Those are stories that they've been trying to sort of, they wanted us to home video, wanted us to tell, right? Because they're big fan graphic novels that people want to see. But in this case, how James is, thankfully, for the most part, people have been okay with, like the Judas Contract being in a, not exactly faithful to the graphic novel, the Death of Superman ones. So a lot of times we were given something, and then, James in this case, because he's the master of this, universe, is like, how can I fit Judas Contract in the continuity, And so sometimes it's great because then we've introduced the Teen Titans basically, and so now that becomes like a wing of our universe now that we can explore. And in a weird way, we're happy about that because I think for us, like the Teen Titans and the Suicide Squad ones are the funnest because we've told so many Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman actually now. But I think this Wonder Woman movie is a thing where we're trying to let's do our first thing of Wonder Woman and introduce her, catch her up a little bit, and then hopefully later, if they let us, we'll just tell more Wonder Woman stories, and we don't have to touch upon like we got to introduce Victoria Cale, or we got to introduce our Cheetah or our Giganta or things like that. So in a way, it's almost like the movie serves. I think the movie works as an emotionally I think it works as an isolated single movie as itself. But there's so many other things in it that I think it's like a jumping off point kind of that's hopefully setting up other movies that we can tell as well.
And plus, she's kind of going through something we've never seen Wonder Woman being a mentor and making a lot of mistakes.
Right. There's a lot of guilt. Again, like I think if I had to boil it down, I think this is a story of like mothers and daughters. I think part of it is about these women that sort of go off and they want to do like the Wonder Woman. Everybody knows, right? So she left Themyscira against the will of her mother, to do this thing, right? And so part of it is the guilt of kind of like I went against what my mother did, and I'm mentoring this girl, and what am I doing with her, and what have I done with my mother? But also the young girl who blames her mother a lot for a lot of things, kind of thing. And so I think that the heart of it again is that, and then sort of how do you prove yourself as an individual, I suppose, and you win over your mother or your family, that type of thing. So
very cool.
all right,
Thank you.